I'm on the England and Wales border. I'm just inside the county of Wrexham in Wales at the moment. Just going to cross the border into England, and I'm going to be visiting the grave of Lady Alice Ormsby Gore. In the early 1970s, she was the fiancée of Eric Clapton. The relationship was defined by mutual isolation and heavy drug use. This period in Clapton's life is famously known as his missing years. Today I'm in the village of Sellarton in the county of Shropshire in England, and I'm looking for the grave of Alice Ormsby Gore. She was a high society figure in the 1960s who was in a relationship with Eric Clapton for 4 years in the early 1970s. She was actually engaged to Clapton, but they never made any arrangements to get married. Nice little spot. It's just over the border from Wales. Wales is only a mile away. This area was actually part of Wales until the late Middle Ages. This is the traditional burial site for the Gore family, although Alice Ormsby Gore's father was buried in Wales. David Ormsby Gore was the 5th Baron of Harlech, and he was the British ambassador to the US during the Kennedy administration, and he was a close friend of the Kennedy clan. I've actually made 2 videos about him before, so I'll link those at the end of the video. Alice Ormsby Gore's mother Sylvia is buried in this churchyard, and Alice is actually buried in the same grave. Sylvia Ormsby Gore died in a car accident near the village of Penrhyn Deudraeth in Wales in 1967, when Alice was only 15 years old. Because of the family's association with the Kennedys, both Bobby Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy came to Lady Sylvia's funeral here. There's actually some black and white footage of the Kennedys at the funeral. A number of the Ormsby Gore family have died in tragic circumstances. And there's a so-called Ormsby Gore curse. Alice's brother Julian died of a gunshot wound in 1974, which was self-inflicted, and he was actually discovered by Alice. And her father died in a car accident just like her mother in 1985. And senior members of the Kennedy family actually attended his funeral as well, including Jackie Kennedy again and Ted Kennedy. Sadly, there's somebody cutting the grass here at the moment. I've circumnavigated the church, but I think the grave must be in this extension over here. I think I actually have to leave the churchyard to get to the extension. No horses and no dogs allowed in this cemetery by order of the trustees. Alice Ormsby Gore met Eric Clapton in the late 60s, and she was actually introduced to Clapton by her brother Julian. Alice and Eric lived a reclusive life at Clapton's estate for pretty much the entirety of their relationship, as they were both heavily addicted to heroin at the time. The only public appearance that Eric Clapton made during this time was to perform at the concert for Bangladesh in 1971, but he was so unwell during the event that he is said to have collapsed backstage. Eric Clapton wrote the song Layla just before his missing years. And this song is about his obsession with Pattie Boyd, George Harrison's wife at the time. And he actually wrote it whilst he was in the early stages of his relationship with Alice. Even though Alice and Eric were going through the same addiction, it was actually Alice who helped him survive his Stackers dower and beat his addiction, although he later replaced his drug addiction with alcoholism. Clapton returned to music in 1973 with his comeback at the Rainbow Theatre in London, and he'd put on so much weight during his missing years that Alice had to adjust his white suit so that he would fit him again. The grass cutting has paused, but I'm not sure if it's finished. The Ormsby Gore plot is at the other side of the cemetery here, on the right hand side as I'm in the direction that I'm looking now. There's Welsh surnames on about half of the headstones, I'd say. Seen a lot of Joneses, Williamses, Hughes, but so far I haven't seen any with a Welsh inscription on them. Okay, if the grass cutting's finished, I'll make my way down there. Alice Ormsby Gore was 42 years old when she passed away in 1995. Alice spent her final years living under the name of Deirdre Stevenson in a bedsit in Bournemouth, trying to stay clean and working with Narcotics Anonymous before her accidental overdose in 1995. And this is the plot for the Ormsby Gore family. Like I mentioned earlier, Alice is buried in the same grave as her mother Sylvia. And here's the grave. Sylvia Harlech, dear wife of David, born 1920, died 1967. Also her cherished daughter, Alice Ormsby Gore. Even though she only died in 1995, it's quite hard to read the headstone. And next to them is the grave of Julian Ormsby Gore, who died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And next to him is Francis Ormsby Gore. He was the 6th Baron of Harlech, and he died in February 2016 at the age of 61, and he died of natural causes. strange to think that both Bobby Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy must have stood quite close to this spot during the funeral of Sylvia Ormsby Gore. You've got other members of the Ormsby Gore family buried next to them here.